Questions About War podcast, production by Lynn and Dave. Episode 27, Anne Applebaum, Part 1, Speech Rewrite for Oxford Union Debate. Thank you, esteemed members of the Oxford Union, for the opportunity to address this vital question. In considering why it is essential to support Ukraine in its war with Russia, we must examine the broader implications for global security, democratic norms, and the rule of law that have sustained peace since World War II. I will argue that the outcome of this war is far more than a regional conflict. It is a pivotal moment for international principles and the defense of democratic values. Argument 1. The security of Europe and NATO. Firstly, let us consider the implications for European and transatlantic security. Vladimir Putin did not intend simply to disrupt Ukraine. He aimed to conquer it entirely. He expected Kyiv to fall within days and planned to be at the Polish border within weeks. His strategic objective, as revealed by leaked invasion plans, was a rapid and total conquest of Ukraine. Had this objective been met, and it remains his goal today, Russia would have become a far more formidable threat to the security of Europe, NATO, and the sovereignty of countries like Germany, Poland, and the Baltic states, all of which have been part of Russian or Soviet empires in the past. Putin has repeatedly spoken of his ambitions to restore Russian influence over these regions. This is not mere rhetoric. For Putin, who began his career as a KGB officer in Dresden, the idea of restoring Russian dominance over Eastern Europe is personal and realistic. If Russia were to successfully conquer Ukraine, it would embolden similar threats to Europe, heightening the risk of conflict spilling into NATO territories and potentially jeopardizing the stability and prosperity of Europe. The United States, as Europe's main trading partner and a pillar of NATO, would inevitably be drawn into the ensuing instability, threatening not just European security, but global economic stability. Argument 2. The challenge to the international rule-based order beyond regional security. Putin's actions pose a direct threat to the post-World War II international order. His invasion of Ukraine was an unambiguous rejection of foundational principles enshrined in the United Nations: respect for sovereignty, human rights, and the sanctity of borders. The UN Charter, the Genocide Convention, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, each of these standards has come under assault by Putin's Russia. Historically, even autocratic states like the Soviet Union made efforts to align themselves publicly with international norms, paying lip service to human rights and laws of war. Democracies have gone even further. In instances where the U.S. or other democratic nations failed to uphold such standards, they held individuals accountable, as seen with the court-martials during the Iraq War. This respect for international norms, even when flawed, preserved a degree of accountability in the global system. Russia, however, has diverged from this approach. The Russian state not only disregards international law, it seeks to dismantle it entirely. Russia's occupation of Ukraine has involved flagrant violations of human rights, setting up concentration camps, deporting Ukrainian children, establishing filtration camps, and carrying out ethnic cleansing. The Russian government has openly and systematically engaged in these actions, sending a clear message that international norms will not restrain it. This open defiance of established standards is not only dangerous for Ukraine, but threatens the fabric of global law and order, encouraging other autocracies to follow suit. Argument 3. The larger battle between democracy and autocracy. The global repercussions of failing to confront Russia extend beyond Europe. Autocratic regimes worldwide, China, Iran, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Nicaragua, and others, are observing the situation in Ukraine with interest. They are looking to see whether democracies possess both the military strength and moral conviction to defend human rights and sovereignty in the face of blatant autocratic aggression. If we fail to support Ukraine, if we fail to uphold the principles we espouse, it will embolden these regimes to act with impunity. This moment, therefore, is not solely about Ukraine. It is a test of our commitment to democratic values and human rights. Our response will set a precedent, not just for Europe, but for Asia, Africa, and Latin America, regions where democratic values and institutions are constantly under siege. Conclusion: in light of these arguments, it is clear that Anne Applebaum advocates for the proposition affirming that this House would fight for democracy, liberty, and the rule of law abroad. She contends that defending Ukraine is essential for European security, upholding international laws and norms, and asserting democratic values in an increasingly polarized world. Supporting Ukraine is not merely an act of solidarity. It is a necessary stand for democracy, liberty, and the rule of law on a global scale. Please join us next time on Questions About War podcast.